The political front is a crowded battlefield today, from the fight over voting rights to the so-called IRS scandal and the push to save our planet. With us now to break down absolutely everything is veteran Democratic strategist Donnie Fowler. He's the CEO of his own firm, Dogpatch Strategies. And we're also joined by David Pakman in Springfield, Massachusetts, one of our favorites. He's the host of the cleverly titled David Pakman Show. Welcome back to the War Room, both of you. I want to go, Donnie, to you first on this SCOTUS ruling today. I want to know what it means, what this ruling on voting rights that we've been talking about for the whole show really means on, to Democratic campaigns in these districts.
For campaigns, this makes the fight they've already been fighting a little bit more difficult. We all know the stories already of Republicans and conservatives making it harder for Americans to vote. Long lines at the polls, not enough voting machines, voter ID, unnecessary voter ID requirements, all of these litany of things. In 9 states plus other parts of other states, these kind of changes to the election process had to be approved before they took effect. Now, they don't need approval at all. They can just happen. So it's going to make the job for Republicans and conservatives easier when they want to make it harder for Americans to vote.
Yeah, and your state of South Carolina today, already the Attorney General there is saying, we want to get rid of the entire Voting Rights Act A to Z. I mean, not just these parts of it.
Because we like the way it used to be 50 years ago when only white people could vote.
Yeah, well, it's clear that there are a lot of people that feel that way, at least 5 on the Supreme Court. David, I want to ask you, a National Review article today called the ruling a victory for civil rights. Let's hear your take on that.
Yeah, it's kind of the same typical backwards projection that we've been seeing for a while. I mean, the reality is that it's true there are some parts of the country where things have changed, and this kind of idea that things have gotten so good that the fact that we don't need this anymore is a victory for civil rights. But the reality is there's a lot of parts of the country where this is still needed. There's also parts that weren't even covered originally by Section 4, parts of Ohio, parts of Pennsylvania, South Dakota even, which actually now do need some of the assistance that was provided by Section 4 to other parts of the country. So it's the same type of backwards rhetoric, but we desperately need that new formula which was talked about.
Yeah, and David, that's such an interesting point, too, because, we don't think about that. We think about the already existing states, but that there are places that it hasn't even applied yet, but they need it. This is something that would actually help in states, I didn't know this, but South Dakota even. And I think that's something that clearly was lost on the court, and hopefully the people will pick up that baton and run with it, because that's an important part of this. We've covered the Voting Rights Act a lot today, but I want to move to some other news. And of course, it's President Obama's latest push to avert climate change. Let's take a listen to President Obama today.
We've got to move beyond partisan politics on this issue. I want to be clear. I am willing to work with anybody, Republicans, Democrats, independents, libertarians, Greens, anybody to combat this threat on behalf of our kids.
So, Donnie, first of all, the president, of course, it's, so hot in Washington, rolling up his sleeves to talk about climate change. That was good.
Good thing it wasn't snowing in June.
That he could try. I was going to say, yeah. So, what now? I mean, how he says we have to move past bipartisanship in this current political climate. How much can he get done, really? The
climate issue has become, for Republicans and conservatives, very much like the abortion issue or wearing a flag lapel pin. If you are on the wrong side of it, you will lose an election. So Republican politicians understand they cannot be for climate change solutions. There is no way we're going to see any new laws. What the president has done is he's looked through his toolbox and he's taken the tools that he has and he says, I'm going to do everything that I can as president under existing law, under authority that I already have, and I'm going to try to fix as much of this problem as possible. Nothing is going to happen in Congress.
Yeah, and that's amazing, too, because then we heard that Georgetown poll that we just talked to Michael Brune about, 75% of Americans.
Well, there's an important thing about the poll. Yes, 75% of Americans say they want a climate change solution. That is a little bit higher than it was a few years ago. But when you say what's your most important issue, climate change is still not the most important issue for Americans.
Right.
So there's a sense of it's important but not urgent for the American people. That's the trick now. That's the task now on this issue. Those of us who want to see climate solutions have to now take it from important to urgent with the American people.
And maybe that's what bringing the president into this dialogue, is going to do. David, the president has lost a little bit of his mojo while trying to tackle the progressive to-do list: guns, immigration, perhaps now voting rights. Is adding climate change to that list actually a good political idea for him?
I mean, I don't think it's bad in the sense that there's a possibility of progress, right? I mean, the president can do more than one thing at once. He has plenty of staff that can definitely help with this. The problem is that, as we know, at the very beginning of President Obama's first term, we had Newt Gingrich and Frank Luntz and a bunch of Republicans meet and say, we're just going to get in the way absolutely anywhere we can. And a lot of that was economic, but it applied to social issues, it applied to science and the environment as well. So I don't think it's a bad idea to try to tackle it. It's just a question of whether there's really going to be progress. And I think Donnie made a good point, which is, as much as people are coming around to the idea that something should be done and that, factually speaking, there are things to do, the idea of making it urgent and making it a right now thing is still not there.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, and that's really tricky, too, to how to get people to make that a priority.
Here's one way. Let me offer this quick idea.
Yeah.
When we, as Americans, if you drove down the street, rolled down your window after eating a hamburger from the drive-thru and tossed your garbage out the window,
yeah,
the policeman's going to pull you over and give you a fine.
right.
As coal plants, as big oil drives through our economy and tosses their pollution out of their smokestack and out of their tailpipe, no one is making them pay for this pollution. So we have to pay as citizens for our trash. These big multi-million-dollar companies are not paying for their pollution. That's the way we need to make it not only important, but urgent.
And then also to do what he did today, by default, which is to say, all right, we're not going to win Jay Rockefeller's Senate seat in West Virginia now that we're having this conversation. We take some sacrifice.
Short-term sacrifice for a problem this big
is really
that's
important.
That's a little profile and courage by Mr. President.
There we go. President Obama with a profile and courage. Maybe he'll get another Nobel Peace Prize. I want to turn now to the IRS, David. We have a new acronym to add to our vocabulary: BOLO, or Be on the Lookout. That's what the IRS calls its list of words used to target nonprofits. As it turns out, though, the list also includes liberal terms such as progressive, Occupy, and marijuana. So this may prove that the so-called IRS scandal may have just been a case of good old-fashioned bureaucratic shortcuts. Does this take the wind out of the Tea Party's sails in their campaign to bring down the IRS?
They'll say that it doesn't, but the reality is I've covered the story probably, 8 or 10 times, and every single time it is less scandalous and more boring, especially with last week or the week before's revelation that the manager in that Cincinnati office who made who put out a BOLO on Tea Party and Patriots and 9/12 is a self-described conservative Republican. So at every step, Michael, this is becoming less of a scandal.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Donnie this question because I know David, being as young and hip as he is, knows the answer. Do you know what YOLO stands for, Donnie? YOLO?
I used to.
It's you only live once.
You ought to look out.
You ought to look out. See, that's the old school one. Donnie, I do want to ask you a political question. Today, the election in Massachusetts, John Kerry, Gabrielle Gomez. For John Kerry's seat, it's Ed Markey and Gabrielle Gomez. What do you see happening there? It seems like that Markey's just running away with this.
Massachusetts is a blue state. It's a Democratic state. It doesn't like Tea Party people most of the time. Ed Markey will be the next U.S. Senator.
All right.
That was a bold prediction, wasn't it?
It was such a bold.
I went way out on a limb on that one.
Ed Markey, next U.S. Senator. That is really, really risky. David Pakman, as always, really great stuff from you from Springfield, Massachusetts tonight. Donnie Fowler, our friend, thanks for being here. Coming up, War Room political trivia and Brett Ehrlich live and in person. That's right. Brett's going to be here right after the break.